Okay, Moro. So, today I have something quite special for you. I've just released WordPress Heroku Docker project on GitHub, and it is the best thing I've done so far, I think. So I'm calling this the Holy Grail WordPress template, just because this is the exact way that I've always wanted to do my WordPress development. So I'm just going to go quickly through why this is the way I like it. So this is for Heroku specifically because I really enjoy working with Heroku because it's really easy for me, and I do love working on Node.js projects and Ruby projects, and Heroku has always been the best place for those kind of apps, and it's really easy to set up really easy pipelines and do proper development with Git and GitHub and continuous integration and that sort of thing that's kind of missing from the WordPress world mostly. I know some of you guys are actually doing really great stuff as well. But okay, so this is my attempt at doing modern WordPress development. So I'm just going to go ahead and clone this repository right now. I'm going to run git clone here. And it's a bit awkward to be writing because I do have my microphone right in front of me, so please excuse me for that. I'm going to go inside the repository and do a tmux session here because that's just the way I work. Okay, so what it is it's a Bedrock like modern development environment. Yeah, it's for Heroku, and we have local development that's kind of like Heroku with Docker and Docker Compose. So basically, if you have a look at the Docker Compose file here, it's just we have a web container, and then we have a shell that's the same, but it's just running bash instead of the web stuff. And we have a CI container, still the same, but it's running the CI commands, so running tests and that sort of thing. And then we have the MySQL container, which could be MariaDB, but I just chose to go with MySQL because, I don't know, it just seems easy. And Redis, because we do like Redis for our object cache. And it's all mounted on the volume MySQL data. I mean, the database is mounted that way. The other stuff is obviously from our local repository here, so our WordPress stuff under HCDocs. Okay, so we have WPC CLI, PHP 7, configurable Nginx, obviously. So I do like Nginx more than Apache. It's a matter of preference. I just like the format of how you configure it more. Yeah, Redis object cache, Travis CI pipeline. So Travis is actually running the Docker command for running the CI container to make things easier and more repeatable locally. PHP code sniffer with coding standards, that's what the CI currently is running. Media uploads with S3 because you can't really have media, the local file system hosting the media on Heroku. New Relic, obviously, because we're on Heroku, and they do actually have a WordPress module on New Relic, which is just awesome. I can show you that later if you want. The paper trail log management, so we can set up alerts if we see errors in our logs, or just have a history of our logs for a year or something. This is great. Just great stuff comes with Heroku if you use that. And we're going to be using local development QA and production pipelines. Well, at least that's the way I work, so I do like that. And we also have a CloudFormation script for provisioning MariaDB RDS instance. So we're going to, in production, we're going to use AWS, and we're going to use MariaDB and an S3 bucket for those uploads, like I mentioned before. So we just have a script that will automate that for us, so we don't have to do it manually. And some stuff that I want to do but haven't gotten around to yet. So let's first go through local development. So, well, I'm going to assume that you have Docker installed. If you don't, just go through this link or whatever, docker.com, and install it on your system. It should be easy on Linux and Mac. Yeah, on Windows, it's going to be a bit harder, but it's going to be fine. So we've already cloned the repository, and now we're going to set up our environment. So let's copy the .n.sample file to .env here, okay? And we're going to source it. And if we have a look at what it has the WBEnv, it's local, yes, we're running it on port 8080, we can change the port if we want to, the database connection string, the Redis URL string, the S3 credentials, that should be replaced. We're not going to be using that locally, so it doesn't really matter. You can install AutoEnv if you don't like running the source command every time that you start the project, or whenever you go into your project directories. It's going to do the source for you. It's going to be so much easier. So I do recommend that quite a lot. So let's start a shell inside Docker, and that's why we have the shell container in there, and we're going to do this command. And this is going to take a bit longer for you because obviously you don't have the images for the Docker containers on your machine yet, but it's going to build those for you, and it's going to fetch those from the internet for you from the Docker repositories. So yeah, I'm now inside the shell container. It's actually created also the Redis on MySQL containers, because the shell does actually require those two different containers as dependencies, so that right now inside this container we have the MySQL and Redis available for us, but that's not very important at this point. So we're going to run composer install like the README tells us to. It's going to take a while for that to do that. Okay, so we're back. So composer install is now done, and we have installed a bunch of plugins and libraries, and actually WordPress itself now, or at least the code part of it. So we are done with composer install, and now I'm going to just start a new session in my tmux, not session, but a new window or whatever, a pane inside it. And because it's telling me that now outside the Docker shell, because now I am outside the shell, I can now start the main process to the web container. So it's going to start Nginx and it's going to start PHP. And then we should be good. And then we can navigate to localhost 8080 to start working with our local WordPress installation. So let's have a go. Oops, let's not go there. And it's telling me, yeah, it looks good, and yeah, there we go. That's the install screen for WordPress. So I'm just gonna go with English for now, and site title, it's gonna be WordPress Docker for now, William, and my password is gonna be password, because yeah, don't care about safety here. It's a local container. Yeah, install WordPress, and we are done. Success. We can log in with our new credentials. William password. Here we go. And we see the dashboard. Everything is fine and dandy. And here we go. Looks good. It's the 2017 theme, I believe. It's very good. It's rather nice, isn't it? So that's pretty much it for the local development environment. So let's go to part 2 of this video and actually have a look at how we're going to set up the Heroku environment, so we can actually deploy our website to Heroku. So the first thing we're going to do is provision the database in the S3 bucket in AWS, because that's a dependency for Heroku. We're going to have to do that first. So for this, you are actually going to have to be logged into AWS. So please go ahead and sign up for the free AWS account if you're going to follow along with this video. But I'm just going to click the launch stack button here, and it's going to take me to CloudFormation on AWS console, and I'm going to click next, and the stack name is going to be WordPress Heroku demo video, and the bucket name demo video. Oh yeah, 5 GB is fine. I'm going to go with the smallest database. Identifier is going to be WordPress demo video database. I can't type. There we go. And DB name WordPress. Password is going to be super secret password again. Password. And we're not going to use AZ, so availability zones here. It's just going to be the cheapest possible way to do it. I think it might actually even be free. I'm not quite sure. Don't quote me on that. So it does give you the estimate. So it's probably not free. It's so a couple of dollars in a month. So nothing that much. So we are now creating, that's actually my old one, don't be confused by that. So it is now creating our MariaDB database instance and the S3 bucket for our WordPress installation. And in just a few moments now, about 5 minutes or so, we're going to have, you see the events here, but we're going to have some outputs, and those outputs are going to give us the Heroku environment variables that we're going to use. So we're now going to click, while it's not quite done yet, we can just go ahead and go forward. It's going to be basically like that in a few moments now. So we're going to deploy to Heroku now. Also, we have a nice button for that, so let's just click that one. And we are going to be greeted with this screen on Heroku, and it's telling us that we are now deploying our own WordPress on Heroku instance. The app name, I'm going to call it WordPress Heroku video demo, and we're going to be running it in Europe because that's awesome that we can do that. And actually we were in Frankfurt on AWS, so that's going to reduce our lag between our database and Heroku Dyno. So for now we are going to be in development, but we do have to wait for the CloudFormation to finish in order to have our URL to the database and the S3 credentials here as well. But yeah, so let's wait for that. Okay, and back again, and CloudFormation has now finished setting up our database and S3 bucket, so we can now have a look at the outputs of this, and these are the secrets, and please don't try to use these secrets because I'm going to delete this app and all the other stuff that's part of it. So I'm going to copy and paste this, and here we go. The bucket name is WordPress demo video. So here, and key is that, and then we have the secret, which is a bit longer, and there we go, and that's already correct because we are using the EU region, and we're going to deploy that on Heroku now. So it's going to create our app and it's going to configure everything just like we did on Docker locally, but this time it's going to be on the awesome Heroku platform, and we're going to have all these awesome add-ons like the Redis and the Paper Trail and New Relic on it as soon as it's started. So now we're just going to have to wait a bit longer again. It's going to take a couple of minutes. This is quite fast actually compared to all the other stuff like Composer installs and that sort of thing. But we are going to have to wait for that for just a moment. Okay, and back again. Heroku has finished creating our dynos, our application. We can actually now go ahead and view our app. It's going to take a while because it has to start up everything the first time we load. This is the free dyno, but we do see the WordPress installation screen just as before, and we're going to call this one WordPress on Heroku, and username Viljami, that's my name, password, great password again, let's just do that, and my email is something I don't care, and install WordPress. I should have pressed the discourage search engine button, but that's fine, I'm just going to delete this afterwards, right after I'm done with the video. But now we're going to have a look at the Heroku environment. So this is what you're going to see when you log into Heroku. You're going to see this is the kind of the application view of what's going on. So you have an overview of what's been going on. You see the latest activity. That's all that's been happening when we started the application by the button. It's quite easy to do like that. But what I'm interested in is actually the settings Git URL. Because now for development we can now push Git commits into Heroku now, and it's going to deploy those for us automatically, and that's great. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a remote Git remote add. We're going to call this one dev, and there we go. Now we have a remote. So we have the origin and the dev. You're probably going to want to change your origin remote to your own repository when you clone this one. So you're going to have your own development going on. But for the sake of this test, it doesn't really matter. But now we have the dev, and now we can actually start developing. And now if you go ahead and see, yes, we have a working WordPress installation, ta-da, on Heroku, which is quite great. I can go ahead and log in, and it's going to work just fine. We have the wAdmin, everything seems quite fine and dandy here again. Dashboard looks exactly the same as the local environment. I can go ahead and add a new post, and let's add an image. Let's take a screenshot of that quickly and add some media here. Let's call this a plant image, and let's bring our image here. And this is now, I'm just doing this to test that the S3 is set up correctly. And we should have, no, not yet at least. What's the, oh, I haven't enabled the plugin first. Yeah, so this is quite important. You have to enable the S3 uploads plugin for this to work first. I should probably make that a must-use plugin in the future, because I do make this mistake always. So now I can just, let's open up our draft and see how fast the dashboard is. Quite quick. It's always nice to be working like this. But now if I re-upload it, it should now upload straight to S3, which is good. So let's see, is it working? Yes, AmazonAWS.com on S3. That's great, it does work. And now we can insert that image here and publish our post, and ta-da, we have a WordPress post with a plant image in it. We have achieved everything that we want in life. That's great. But okay, now let's go forward and do some actual developments. And we're not happy with this. This is just the default 2017 theme. Although it's quite nice looking and everything, I do want to add some plugins. So let's go ahead and do that. We can't, because we're on Heroku, we can't, just like with the media, we can't just go ahead and do a plugin install from here, because Heroku doesn't keep your local files. It's going to start those instances up and it's going to get rid of all your files. So that's why we have to use the S3 uploads, and that's why we use Git and Composer in order to have plugins and themes and other kind of awesome stuff that you would normally be able to just save on your server. Heroku is not a server, so that's the difference. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my session where I was inside the my local instance. Right, so I've done a Composer install here. I'm going to clear the screen and I'm going to require a plugin Composer require. So I'm going to use the wpackages repository plugin, and I'm going to install, let's say, Akismet. That's a good plugin, isn't it? No, let's go with the WP Libre form. That's one of my own. And then let's actually use my own repository instead of the wpackages, because I do like that. So I'm going to do that. And it's telling me I can't use Composer as root, but that's fine because we're in a Docker image. I might look into that later, but for now it's fine. So let's wait for the require to finish. It's going to take a couple of seconds here. Okay, I've now installed my own plugin here, and that's only installed the file. So if I go here and let's go back to the local one, sorry, localhost as wp-admin. Wait a moment here, and let's go see the plugins. We should see it right here, and we could activate it here, or we could use WP-CLI. Let's do that because I like that a bit more. Something may be wrong with the Wordpress. Okay, that's weird, but we should figure that out. But I'm just going to activate all my plugins. Actually, let's do that. WP plugin activate all. So that's going to activate all my plugins. So I'm going to have S3 uploads. It's not actually going to work locally because I do have a setting here that tells me not to use it, but it's fine. And now we have all the plugins activated, and we do see the Formers plugin. This is a cool little plugin that you can use to have simple forms on your website using HTML. So let's do a form here. It's going to be a contact form. Okay, submit. That's fine. Let's save the shortcode, publish that, or save it rather. It's actually not on any pages. Let's just add it on a post. I haven't actually tested it on this theme, so let's see how it looks. So this is going to be called the contact form post, and let's publish. And we have the shortcode, and it should be rendering a little form here. Oh yeah, okay, that's rather nice. Okay, so enter our name, and that all should work just fine. Now we have installed a plugin. So how do we get this? Because we don't actually mirror it onto our Heroku instance here. We don't have the plugin installed here. As we can see, it's still empty, and there's no form here. So what we have to do now is we have to make a commit and add our changes into this. So added Libre form here. Okay, and then, well, I'm not going to go through the Composer log files. I'm just going to add the file. And just to make sure there's no other changes, add p, no changes, and we can commit. We're going to call this add WP Libre form plugin. Awesome. Now I'm pushing to Heroku. What it's going to do is going to rebuild our application, and it's going to run Composer install as part of that install. That's just part of how Heroku works, so it's going to do that automatically. So now it has installed WP Libre form on Heroku, and it's going to compress the slug, and it's going to start the server or start the dyno on Heroku. And now if you go and see our plugins on Heroku, it's going to take a bit longer because now it also has to restart the PHP FPM processes. It always takes a couple of seconds, especially for the free dynos. But now if we go and see our plugins, we should be seeing the Libre form plugin. Yes, we do. And let's activate that now. And there we go. We can do the same we did locally, and that's quite fine. But okay, that's the end of this demo. I can go a bit more into how I develop WordPress if you want, but for now this is just a short video to show kind of what I've been up to lately and kind of showcase the Heroku and Docker workflow that I have going on here for my plugins and my theme development. So, okay, cheers guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up and share this with your WordPress guys, WordPress friends, developers, everybody. I would really love it if you would give me some feedback on Twitter, so you can find me. I'm going to post my Twitter below, so you can check that out. And awesome. Cheers. Have a good one. Moro moro.